Good morning. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. First, we want to thank you very much. We're trying to start exactly on time. We want to thank those in attendance, and I want to give you an idea of how we will move this. We have a live link to Libya and South Africa. Cynthia McKinney, as you know, is in Libya. She had intended to be here with us today, but she couldn't get out after the university, the NASA University, was bombed in Tripoli. And so she's going to give us a brief report by phone. We couldn't get her image, and we're going to start off with, I'm going to call him the Honorable Ramsey Clark, former Attorney General. He's been involved in human rights issues all over the world. And wherever injustice has taken place, you can find Ramsey Clark lifting his voice up. So we're honored to have him to lift up his voice in his own way of what's happening in North Africa, Libya in particular. So I'd like to bring Ramsey Clark to the mic.
Good morning. The crime of the moment is a murderous assault by the United States, the United Nations, and NATO on the people of Libya. It's the last in a long line of assaults on Arab and Muslim peoples. For 20 years now, the cradle of civilization, Iraq, has been systematically attacked and destroyed under the leadership of my country, the United States. We see the long struggle in Afghanistan. We see drones invading the sovereignty of Pakistan and threatening to invade the sovereignty of Yemen. There's no end to it. The United States has supported dictators over the Arab people for years and years. We supported Mubarak to the very end, in spite of the patent, massive revolution of the people. Finally, after suffering under Sadat and Mubarak, because of the United States backing there, and it has to end. We tried to assassinate the leader of the Libyan people in 1986. It was a sneak attack. Planes from Lakenheath Air Force Base in England, flying all the way around the Iberian Peninsula and coming through the Straits of Gibraltar, coming right off the sea. And what did they hit first? They hit the compound that we're seeing every day on television. They hit his office. They hit his tent out in the compound there. They hit his home. They killed a daughter. This time they've killed 3 grandchildren. Is there no end to it? Is there no decency? Are the people of the planet powerless to end such tyranny and violence? It's absolutely essential that we stand up, that this institution across the street that was created to end the scourge of war stop initiating and supporting the scourge of war for superpowers like the United States. Assassinations are something we know about too. There were 3 in my time in the Department of Justice. Everyone heartbreaking, of a great moral leader. And it has to stop. It needs to stop right now. We need to call a cessation to the arms fight and a peace settlement of any dispute that exists there. But the support of the people for Colonel Gaddafi seems pretty obvious. That they've been able to withstand this enormous assault from outside by the greatest powers on earth that manufacture too many arms. And the United States must cut its military spending by 90% before there can be peace on earth, because that is the problem, all those arms coming out of this country. Thank you.
We want to thank Ramsey Clark. Next, I'd like to introduce the chairperson of the December the 12th movement. She has been involved in human rights struggles, not only inside of America, with all of our prisoners that we have left on the wayside who struggled for us for justice during the days of the Black liberation struggle. But she's been involved internationally across the world, attending conferences and fighting for human rights causes. She's well known in New York and throughout America as a real fighter, Sister Viola Plummer.
Good afternoon. And again, we come to draw attention to the imperialist aggression in our homeland, Africa. It is very clear to us that what's afoot, if we go back to Brzezinski's chessboard, that Africa at this point is the focal point for the empire's recolonization. There are two extremely important countries on the continent of Africa at this point. One such is the sovereign country of Libya, and that it is very clear that the bombing, the aggression, the attempt at the murderous assassination of a leader sits well with the government of the United States. We are calling on African people throughout the United States, and I say African people in particular because it is Africa. It is Africa which is at this time in the crosshairs. The attempted assassination of President Muammar Gaddafi and the illegal sanctions on the Republic of Zimbabwe. These two countries are the stalwart countries who resist the militarization of the continent vis-a-vis Farrakhan. So that we're calling on people throughout the United States to join us August 13th, here in Harlem, where we're calling millions of our people to understand our relationship between here and Africa, between the United States and Africa, that we are under attack, and that we must mobilize the millions of our people, because we are clear from the teachings of Dr. John Henry Clark that it must be Pan-Africanism or we perish. Thank you.
Thank you. Viola said August the 17th because that's Marcus Garvey's birthday, and it's kind of etched in her brain. But next is Sister Cynthia McKinney, former Congresswoman from Georgia, an international activist throughout the world. She lost her seat because of her activities in championing the cause internationally of people who are oppressed and even her own government. So she's in Tripoli now. She's on the phone. She's going to make a brief statement, and we're going to ask her to stay on the line until the end of the press conference. Cynthia, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Akbar. I would just like to say that the international media are here. U.S. media are here, but the truth is nowhere to be found. Since I have been in Tripoli and its metropolitan area, I can say that I have been an eyewitness to terror, an eyewitness to NATO terror. I have seen this terror in people's homes, in the mosque, at schools, and even at community parties. No place is safe. The House of Representatives cut off the funding 24-hour news blackout in the United States. The American people didn't even know what their own Congress had done because the U.S. press refused to broadcast it. It is correct that the first casualty of war is truth. War is a racket, and nowhere is that more evident than right here in Libya. I commend the members of the House of Representatives, the members of Congress, who voted to cut off the funding for this adventure of our government, and those members of Congress who have the intention of taking the Obama administration to court to force the Obama administration to respect the U.S. Constitution and the War Powers Act. Thank you so much, Akbar, for having me here.
Thank you. Sister Cynthia McKinney, could you stay on the line? We're going to try to have you to listen in. Minister Farrakhan will be speaking next. Thank you very much. So stay on the line. I want to give this back to Brian so you can put it by a speaker. Brother Ashad, would you take it? Here you are. Give it to Brian and put it by. First, before I introduce Minister Farrakhan, I'd like to recognize Bryant Becker from Answer Coalition. Bryant has worked very hard. If Cynthia is blessed to get back to America, as you read the news, you can see they're trying to cut off the road to Tunisia, which is the lifeline to Tripoli, and also to make sure that the tanks that supply fuel for the Tripoli metropolitan area are under attack. So it may be difficult for her to get back, but Brian has organized a tour for Cynthia to speak in about 5 cities across America. So this is Brian Becker. Would you stand? Most of you know that the Answer Coalition is excellent at organizing people, and when the White House does something wrong, you can count on Answer Coalition to be out in front of the White House. I'd like to, first of all, thank Minister Louis Farrakhan. He pulled this together. He's been talking about it. It's been on his mind to make a statement about what is happening in Libya. And those who saw his first press conference, the minister gave us permission. We know that at the UN right now, there's a delegation from the African Union, and many of them who wanted to attend told us that they had to be there for this particular meeting this morning. And the minister has given us permission to deliver the DVD from this press conference to all of the African states as well as the Caribbean and those that are in NATO. So without further ado, let's bring on Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Thank you. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, we give Him praise and thanks for His goodness and His mercy to the human family. That whenever any member of this family strays from his straight path and earns His displeasure, before He punishes, He always raises from among the people a prophet or a messenger to whom He gives what is called divine revelation, by means of which that people can be guided back to His favor. And we thank Him for these prophets and messengers of God, Moses and the Torah, Jesus and the Gospel, Muhammad and the Quran. I am a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and I could never thank Allah enough for His intervention in our affairs in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, the great Mahdi, who came among us and raised from among us the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, particularly to reform black people in America and to raise black people in America, black people throughout the world, and to warn America and the world of what is happening now and will continue to get worse. I am here this morning and I am happy to see the press, but it's irrelevant to me if you print one word or no words. I'm here to make a statement. And when I finish, if you wish to ask me questions, you're welcome. I'm here to discuss the current state of affairs in Libya and the actions taken by the United Nations with respect to Security Council Resolution 1973, passed on the 17th of March, 2011. I'm addressing my remarks to the United Nations and all those who have joined to destroy brother leader Colonel Muammar Gaddafi and the Libyan Jamahiriya. What is the justification for such an action that was taken by the Security Council of the United Nations? If the Security Council passed Resolution 1973 to protect the civilian population of Libya from the so-called evil intentions of the leader of Libya, why then is NATO, under the auspices of the Security Council, forgetting about humanitarian concerns and now using Resolution 1973 as a pretext to assassinate Muammar Gaddafi and create regime change? Why is the UN fostering, through NATO, armed rebellion to create civil war, knowing that in a civil war the humanitarian concerns go out the window? Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said, "Gaddafi's days are numbered. We are working to plan for the inevitable, a post-Gaddafi Libya." Russia says Gaddafi has lost the moral right to lead Libya after attacking his own people. The actions of NATO, along with the United States, Canada, Qatar, and members of the Arab League, engaging in this errant behavior, are creating conditions that will ultimately bring about the destruction of the United Nations and all those engaged in this action, blinded by arrogance and the sense of power of these nations that they can do what they will. They cannot fathom the consequences of their actions. They think they are on a good course in which all of the vultures will benefit. But in the end, all of you will see that you have signed on to that which will ultimately bring about your utter destruction. What has Muammar Gaddafi done to deserve what this united coalition of demons is putting on him? They say that he has lost the moral right because he has killed his own people. But you have never proved that charge. Check the record of America, England, France, Canada, Qatar, Italy, the Arab League, and put it up against the record of Muammar Gaddafi and the Libyan Jamahiriya. England, France, Italy, Germany, and the United States do not have a good humanitarian record. America, with the transatlantic slave trade and 450 years of evil toward the blacks, the decimation of the Indian population, and the dropping of atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That record is clear. England and all of your empire, you have never had humanitarian concerns for the people of Africa, Asia, the Caribbean, and other places that you ruled. So are you better now than what you once were? I suggest not. What are the real strategic interests that compel you to this behavior? Libya under Muammar Gaddafi pushed the British and the Americans out of Libya, closed their bases, and nationalized its oil. That angered Western powers, even as Mohammad Mossadegh of Iran angered the West when he nationalized Iranian oil. That action led to a CIA operation that planted the Shah on the throne as the ruler of Iran. Under his rule, the people of Iran lost much of their Islamic identity, giving birth to Imam Ayatollah Khomeini and the Iranian Islamic Revolution. Whatever you, England, France, Italy, Germany, and America, whenever you planted leaders, they were always those who put their personal wealth and gain over the best interests of their people. Thus, whenever you installed a dictator, whether it is in the Caribbean, Central America, South America, Asia, Africa, or the Middle East, you always knew that the legitimate interests of the people would cause some of the people to rise against that dictator. So your dictator had to use methods of repression, torture, and destruction of life to preserve your dictator and to preserve your economic and strategic interests in that country. Have you changed? Are you better than your predecessors? I think not. So when a man like Muammar Gaddafi rises in a bloodless coup and replaces the former king, who was a friend of those who were sucking the blood of Libya, and nationalizes oil, we must ask the question, who did his actions help and who did his actions hurt? It hurt those who were for the first time had to pay a fair price for Libyan sweet crude, the sweetest high quality oil in the world, which meant that the people of Libya could, from the sale of their oil, better their quality of life. How did Muammar Gaddafi use the riches of Libya? He loves to put a tent in the desert, so you cannot say he used all money as some of your other friends just to build huge palaces, nor can you say no matter how much wealth he has that he does not consider the Libyan population. Were you displeased with his use of Libyan oil money to take down dictators that England, France, America, Italy, and Germany put in place? Yes, you were angry with him. So he became number one on the list of the West to be destroyed. You say he did the Lockerbie bombing, the bombing of a discotheque in Berlin. Well, none of us who are sane and civilized can cotton to any kind of action that destroys the lives of Libyan people or innocent people. Does that compare in any way, however, with America, England, France, Germany, Italy, with your record of mass murder against regimes that you didn't like? Let's look at President Sukarno in Indonesia. He was a man who called all African and Asian nations and nations of color together in the Bandung Conference of 1955 to discuss the wickedness of the West against the poorer and weaker nations of the earth. How many hundreds and thousands of lives were lost when Sukarno was overthrown in a CIA-sponsored coup? Estimates range from between 250,000 to 500,000 deaths. Have you changed? Or are you the same as you were, but dressed in different garments? Assassination plots against Fidel Castro, Patrice Lumumba, Papa Doc Duvalier of Haiti. Are you a new and better France, a new and better England, a new and better Germany, a new and better Italy, and a new and better America, that you could sentence another man to death with your history written in the blood of black, brown, red, yellow, and the blood of your own Caucasian people? This is why the Bible calls you the bloodshedder. Go ahead. Have you changed? You have shed the blood of all life without just cause. Are you the protector of the humanitarian rights of the Libyan people with a record like this? Have you changed? Are you better than you were? Let us see. If Muammar Gaddafi has lost his moral right to lead the Libyan people, let us see what is going on in your countries. and ask you the same question. What is your humanitarian record with your own citizens? You great imperial powers. Europe's unemployment right now is at a 12-year high. Unemployment in France is near 10%. Italy and England are near 8%. And Britain has lost close to 1 million youth out of work. Spain has 21%